Relax. It's ASMR. Welcome back to class. I'm glad you could make it back. Well, as you know, we have a stack of vocabulary words to go over. I want to make sure that you remember them and understand them. So we're just going to pick a few at random, and we'll probably do a little over half of the stack just to get you prepared for your test. Okay? And I know you're going to do fine. You've been practicing and studying a lot. So this is just to make sure that you have everything down and that you're calm and you're ready to take the test and you're not freaked out about it. Okay? Good. Yeah, you got this. Okay. Well, let's start then. We'll pull up our first word here. It is pulchritude. Pulchritude. Now, this means attractiveness. Someone or something that is very attractive. Pulchritude. Okay. The next one is another word that starts with P. Preponderate. Preponderate. This means to surpass others in numbers, intensity, force, or prowess. Preponderate. Now, the next one is someone who makes up new words. That is a neologist. Neologist makes up new words. Shakespeare was a great neologist. He made up many, many words that we use every day in our English language. This word starts with a V, and it means something that has wavy lines or motion. If it has wavy lines or wavy motion, it is vermiculate. Vermiculate. Yeah, that would be a good one to use in a sentence. You can say that the person you love's hair is flowing and vermiculate. I don't know how romantic that is, but it probably sounds pretty cool. Now, this is someone who is bitingly sarcastic. They are mordant. Mordant. That's a good word. It's nice and short, but you don't hear it very often. But someone who is sarcastic in a very cruel, sharp manner. Usually those who are mordant probably also are characterized by having a gloomy or forbidding appearance. That is saturnine. Saturnine. Someone who looks brooding or foreboding. Someone who's maybe a little goth would be saturnine. This next word starts with a G, and it is an imaginary place of high romance. Grostark. Grostark. Could be any place that people imagine as being very romantic. So I guess it could apply to some place like Paris, just as much as it could apply to some place that is purely fictional. Now this word means something that is trashy, worthless, rubbish. Quisquilius. Quisquilius. Something that is useless. Very long word for something like that. Now, this word is very specific in its time, speaking about a chunk of time, that is pertaining to the day before yesterday. Nudiestrin, having to do with the day before yesterday. Now this one is a very specific feeling that happens. I think we've all felt it. When we have numbness caused by the pressure on a nerve that causes part of your body, like your foot, to go to sleep and get those pins and needle feeling. Obdurition. When that happens, you're feeling obdurition in your foot or your arm or someplace else in your body. You doing well? I hope some of these are familiar. Yeah, good. Okay. I'm going to kind of mix these up so that we make sure we don't get the same grouping that we had last time. Keep you on your toes. How's that? Okay. Now this is a word that describes a boisterous or carefree girl, or basically a tomboy. That is hoyden. Hoyden. It's kind of a cheery word, isn't it? But I can't imagine it being used in a positive manner in the past. But today, it sounds like a pretty good word. I've never heard anyone use it outside of vocabulary terms. But hoyden. Now this is a word for an emotional thrill, a shudder of emotion. Frisson. Shudder of thrill of emotion. Usually you hear this in reference to hearing music that sends a shudder down your spine, something that is highly emotional and charged. This is a great word. You hear it ever so often. Very specific. It means to throw something out of the window. That is defenestrate. Defenestrate. To chuck it right out of the window. Here's another fairly common word. Ever so often you'll hear it. It is the feeling of being offended. And it is the word umbrage. Umbrage. I think in our social media culture, you could call this the age of umbrage. Everyone likes to feel offended, or at least pretend that they feel offended. Umbrage. Now this is an undistinguished imitator or descendant of an illustrious person or family. Someone who is pretending to be important or from a family that used to be important. Epigone. Epigone. Someone who is pretending to be something they're not. This is another fun word, literally. Funambulist. A funambulist is a tightrope walker, someone who does a very dangerous, scary job that I could never do. You'll never catch me being a funambulist. That's for sure. Now, if you really want to offend someone and call them a good name, this word is a shrewd, unprincipled person. And that is snollygoster. Someone who is sneaky and without principles. Do anything to pull something over on someone. Snollygoster. And something that is stinky and smells hercene, but often maybe be accompanied by a miasma, a cloud of noxious fumes. Miasma. Okay, let's mix these up again. Okay, here we have the word serendipity. Now this is a pretty common word. You hear it fairly often. And it means something that is accidental but fortuitous. The faculty of accidentally making happy or unexpected discoveries. Serendipity. This word means insolently abusive and humiliating. Contumelious, humiliating. Might be a good word to use to spare someone's feelings who has just been embarrassed or humiliated, instead of using the word humiliation. This is a draped female figure supporting an entablature. So this is part of an architectural piece of a building. It is a woman that is basically acting like a pillar. The carving of a woman acting like a pillar. Caryatid. This is another word you don't often hear, or you used to not hear it very much. I've been hearing it more and more often. Penultimate, meaning next to last, next to the final, right before you get to the end. Usually something in a list or a series of actions. This is the one that comes right before the last one. The penultimate. Now, someone who has an uncontrollable craving for alcohol has dipsomania. Dipsomania. The strong desire to consume alcohol. Doing well? Okay. We have a few more here we can go through. Someone who is skilled at storytelling. It's a raconteur. Now, usually this has the connotation of someone who is lying or trying to pull something over on someone, who's telling a tall tale in order to trick someone. That's usually what the word raconteur means. Not necessarily a positive thing. That person is undoubtedly a Bezonian, a scoundrel. Bezonian raconteur. Starting to build up a vocabulary and making sure that people don't know you're insulting them. This is a piece of your body The philtrum is the little piece between your nose and your lips. If anyone who is doing anything with makeup or beauty probably knows that word very well. This word is another P word. Pinguid. Fat or greasy. Pinguid. Kind of sounds like a Batman villain, doesn't it? But I guess in some of the movies, he's definitely portrayed as fat and greasy. This word means honor, prestige, reputation. Izzat. Izzat. I've never heard this word used in any connotation. That was a good one to hang on to. Let's see what else we have here. This is the worship of words, which is different than what we're doing. We're doing the studying of words and the learning of words. But the worship of words is appealatry. Appealatry. That is the worship of words. And this is a sweet word. It means the delusion that things are more beautiful than they really are. Kalapsia. Kalapsia. I think sometimes I tend to have a bit of this myself. Kalapsia. I think it helps you get through your day, or definitely through your year, as things happen around you. As long as you're not completely naive about it. Maybe it's a bit like trying to find the silver lining in something. Now, someone may call that attitude cowardly, faint-hearted, pusillanimous, but I don't think so. Now, someone who is an unscrupulously faithful follower, or a henchman you might call them, a myrmidon. Myrmidon. Someone who does what they're told without thinking, following someone with blind loyalty. It's a myrmidon. Okay, how you doing? Good? Okay. We're actually about halfway through, so we're doing really well. We may get through all of this. I think you're picking up pretty well on all of the words. Again, this is just a refresher anyway. So let's continue on. This word means to stain or to paint or to put on makeup. Infuscate. Infuscate. So, if you have a makeup YouTube channel, you may want to use the word infuscate somewhere in there. No, that wouldn't be a good idea. Well, you can try at least. This next word means softly radiant, like a light or flame, or a way of dealing lightly and gracefully with a difficult subject of discussion. Lambent. Lambent. So, interesting use of a word, two different things. This is a fairly simple word you don't hear very often. It is the top of the head, usually a bald head, is called the pate. So an older gentleman will sometimes wear a hat on his pate to keep it protected. This is another anatomical term. It is turned up at the tip, especially when you're talking about a nose. Retroussé. Someone whose nose is turned up at the tip is retroussé. Their nose is retroussé. That is to say. Now, if something is just a complete mess, a hodgepodge or a jumble, it is gallimaufry. Gallimaufry. Not particularly organized, just kind of put in a heap. No order to it at all. This is the offense of frequently stirring up lawsuits or quarrels. Barratry. Barratry. You can kind of see the root of that word. A lawyer is sometimes called a barrister. So barratry is stirring up lawsuits, trouble, and quarrels. Now this is something that is affectedly cute or quaint, overly precious or nice. So it is something that is sweet and precious, but to a degree that is usually not that pleasant. And that is twee. Twee. It's almost like being very conscious of how cute you are and using it to your full advantage. Now, if you're tired, which I know you're not, right? But if you were, and you were to stretch your arms out as you yawned, you would pendiculate, or pendiculation, the action of stretching while you yawn. This word is the art of bullfighting. Tauromachy. Tauromachy, the art of bullfighting. If something is cheap, showy, tawdry is a good word. Brummagem. Brummagem. Something that's cheap and tawdy is brummagem. And that might go with twee a little bit, maybe. I don't know. Can see those going together. Now, someone who is frenzied or agitated or in a state is corybantic. Corybantic. Completely beside themselves. Probably maybe acting out on it so people can see publicly they are freaking out. Now, if you're remodeling an old building and you don't really care about the history of the building or remaining faithful to its original quality, you just want to redo the building. It is called Grimthorpe. Sorry, there is a word for that. Not being aware of your history or the place that you are and just starting to do renovations without thinking about it. This is a beautiful word. I love this word. It means to go counterclockwise or in a contrary direction. Widdershins. Widdershins. It's even fun to say. Now, someone who is caught for doing a crime, possibly even convicted, but they go right back to doing it. Recidivist. Recidivist. Someone who cannot learn how to properly behave and not break the law. They keep going back. They are recidivist. Now this is a word for the low whispering sounds like the rustle of leaves. Scythurism. Scythurism. The whispering sound. It kind of has a whispering sound all of its own. Scythurism. Now, someone who is a recidivist, back in the olden days, would possibly have been stoned to death, and that word is lapidate. Lapidate. To stone someone to death. Now this word means to cloud over, to darken or obscure. Obnubilate. Obnubilate. To darken over. Like when a thunderstorm is coming. It will obnubilate the landscape. Now, neglect or wrongful action committed by a public official. Misprision. Misprision. I think this word is a word that may be coming back into more use in recent times. Misprision. Now, speaking of stoning people, this word is to revert to a primitive form of behavior. And that is atavistic. Atavistic. If we were to return to stoning people as a way of punishment, that would definitely be atavistic on our part. Now this word means to be blithely unconcerned. To be probably a little naive, insouciant. Insouciant. Blithely unconcerned. This is a very cozy word. It means the nook by a fireplace. It is simply the ingle nook. Ingle nook. Good. You're doing really well with these. I'm glad they're sinking in. They're familiar to you. So none of these should be a surprise. I think you're going to do really well on your test. We've just got a few more, so let's power through, okay? Okay. Now this one is someone who is stupid, dull, obtuse. Boeotian. Boeotian. Not a nice word, but may be one you comes in handy at some point in time. Now, this is characteristic of the country, rustic, but it could also mean someone who is unpolished or uncouth. Someone who doesn't quite know how to behave in polite society. Agrestic. Agrestic. Now, most of the time I hear this, it is about just farm life. Someone who is going back to simpler ways of sustenance living, or who lives on a farm. Agrestic. So usually this is a more positive term than a negative one. Now, if you were looking back on agrestic times in our past with an overly sentimental attitude, it would be mawkish. Mawkish. Sort of like a saccharine sentimentality that is overdone. Mawkish. Now this is a very specific word. It is the graffiti that is found in a restroom. And it is latrinalia, which sounds very Latin in its origins, since it has the word in it. So it sounds very Roman. Latrinalia. So maybe that's where the word comes from. Maybe they were fond of putting graffiti in their restrooms. It's another fun word to say. A loud, discordant noise. It's also a hangover, also a state of depression or bewilderment. Katzenjammer. Katzenjammer. I like to think of it as a loud, discordant noise myself, probably because it has the word yammer in it. Now, if something is beautiful, pleasing to the eye, something that you like to look at, it is isim. Isim, another short little word that you don't hear at all. Isim. Now, this is a word that starts with G, and if you place your two hands together to form a bowl, or you can also refer to that amount as a measurement, it is a gaupen. So a gaupen is about that much. So if you go to the store and ask for a gaupen of something, they probably won't know what you're talking about. But it'll be fun anyway. Now, if someone has become hardened or calloused, they just don't care anymore. Indurated. Indurated. Usually you hear this used as someone who has seen everything. They don't care very much anymore. Indurated. Now, if you run away after you've stolen something, it is absquatulate. To steal something and run off. Absquatulate. I think in modern parlance, we would simply use the word yoink. Okay, we have 3 more. Okay, you're doing great. Now, speaking of words that you can use to insult somebody, this means dull, stupid, or clumsy. They are gormless. Gormless. Not a good thing to call someone. I think you could string some of these words together and get quite a good, rousing description going of someone. Now, someone who studies flags is a vexologist. Vexologist. I think it's a fairly well-known word. People don't use it a lot, but it's not completely unknown. And then we have our final word, someone who pretends to be sick in order to avoid work. A malinger. Malinger. Someone who says, I can't make it in today, boss. I'm going to have to skip work. That is a malinger. Okay, how do you feel? Good? You should. I think you're going to do great on this test. Now, the good news is not all of these words will be on the test, so you'll only have to recall probably about half of these on the test, maybe a little less than that. But these are all the possibilities that could be on it. So you were very well prepared, and I'm glad that I was able to help you. So, good luck, and let me know how it goes, okay? All right. See ya.